I think Maureen is gone. She's gone. It was good. Your whole family. Cousins and brothers and sisters did.
I drove down the Canyon Creek Drive one, and there's still a lot of construction going on down there.
Right.
Like 3 or 4 houses being built.
I drove out the hill road yesterday. Good job.
Yeah.
Should, for as long as it took them to do it. Yeah, should take about.
Live, everybody.
Okay, I'm gonna call it. Wait, I have 5:30. That thing is. Right. All the meetings in order. This is the September 22nd, 5:30 meeting of the London Rose panel. And, I would like this order to follow.
Yes, ma'am. Chairperson Linnea Bailey.
Here.
Vice Chair Cody Abney.
Here.
Panelist Joe Blue. Panelist Ed Fleming.
Here.
Panelist Joe Green.
Here.
Okay, now. And we'll go to, approval of the minutes. Is it the minutes first? Oh, wait a minute, no. We have somebody here to speak.
We do?
Do we? You have anybody?
No,
want to speak?
I'm sorry, yeah, no public comments.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Then, the consent agenda. This item will be approval of the Platinum Road panel minutes of August 18th, 2022. We didn't have them for our last meeting. So, but I think it was attached to the agenda. Okay. Okay. Is there any discussion on the meeting minutes? Minutes?
I'll go ahead and call the consent vote. Vice Chair Cody Abney.
Yes.
Panelist Joe Bloom.
Yes.
Panelist Ed Fleming.
Here, yes. Of course.
Panelist Joe Green.
Yes.
And Chairperson Linnea Bailey.
Yes.
Okay, next.
Okay, very quickly, I think we have to approve both? We have to, okay. Let's go ahead, I didn't call it out that way. Okay, approval of the panel meeting minutes from September 1.
I'll move for approval.
Okay.
I'll second it here.
Panelist Joe Bloom.
Yes.
Here, yes.
Panelist Joe Green.
Yes.
Chairperson Linnea Bailey.
Yes.
Vice Chair Cody Abney.
Yes.
Now we go to the regular agenda item. And, very quickly, we have been doing, we looked at the so PDEM is the funds that were allocated for drainage came from the Coronavirus Relief Act that was in early 2021. And we as the city did not qualify, we were called a non-qualifying entity, and we were not eligible to receive funds. The Texas Division of Emergency Management is managing the funds for the Department of Treasury because they were related to disaster, if you want to call it, the coronavirus. What they did is they said they went around and distributed the funds. And at the time after they distributed the funds, there were some entities that did not respond, did not request funds. So they had some money left over, and then they made allocation of those monies to cities like Wood Creek that were non-eligible units because that act is looking for a larger cities of a larger population. They said you could use your the funds for 4 purposes, And one of the purposes was if you needed to have, if your city had suffered losses as a result of the coronavirus lockdown, then you could repay yourself. If you had personnel that was performing services relevant to the coronavirus epidemic or whatever we call it, the pandemic, and the after effects, you could also use them for that. You could use them to improve broadband, and the last one is you can use it for wastewater, sewer, drainage projects. The interesting part of this grant is that it does not require matching funds from the cities, unlike this, so it's an award rather than a grant. And because of our size, we are not subject to, there's some very demanding reporting requirements, but we as a city are not, because the award is so small. And so we only have to report annually or semi-annually. Once we start the project, if we decide to start a project, then we have to notify. We have encountered some difficulty. Maureen managed, we have another grant, also under the Texas Department of Emergency Management. And it was the money that we used, we had another award. And that was the money that was used to maintain and support the center for respite center for first responders and others who were working the pandemic. So we have a relationship with them and we know how to report, and there's a portal, but we have not been able, the person at the Texas Department of Emergency Management was contact is not responding to our calls because we are interested in telling them that we want to start the process and make sure that we're doing it right. So, we have the name of the individual. I'm going to make an effort to get her to respond to me, and if not, I'm going to call the Region 7. Austin has 2 managers, 2 directors, and I'm going to call them and see what is going on, because we need to do this. When we would like to start planning for this, we have to like it. Some of the things that I learned by reading these books is that it's pretty different. It's a relatively easy process in comparison to other federal grants that I have seen. But they do want you, of course. But one thing that is interesting is that you do not have, for example, on another grant, yes, we do have to have a request for proposals. The request for proposals has to meet certain requirements, but we do not have to have an administrator. We can manage our own project. So that lowers the expenses that we would have on another type of grant. So as far as that is concerned, you can take funds from other sources and add them to this grant if you have them. You can, if you want to use this grant, for example, if we were to have some construction that required drainage and we had some money left, as long as it's for the purpose of the grant, we could use those monies to supplement other funds. But it has to be relevant to the purpose of the award. So it's not as I think that we are, if this panel is ready to, and I want to be very clear that it's sometimes that there are, how do I say, competing priorities and timelines here. We have the small streets, we have the drainage, we have the bond that they're gonna go. And this panel is in the midst of all of them. So I have mentioned to Chair Bailey that a good thing would be a workshop. You know, to sit down and say, okay, you want to do it, I know there's better methods than the old fashioned, I like the white horse and the easel. You know, we look at all of these timelines and decide how we're going to proceed. I get frustrated when I have all these projects coming to me. I get frustrated and I get kind of, other people may have a better style of management. I like to have an order to things. So I think that that would be a good thing. What do we have? We have this money. This money is ours. We have to begin the process and we have to be finished by December, by 2024. So there is a sense of urgency, but there's time to do it and do it right. We have the allocation from council for $227,000 to do the small streets. And we also have the bond election in November. So those are the three things. We did, so if this is I would say that we have these funds. We know how to proceed, and if we want to consider those, all that we have to do at this point, if we want to consider this project, is tell the city engineer that we want to proceed and help us develop and work with us and help us develop an RFP and go out for it. This is probably the easiest of the projects that are before us. The other thing too, that reading the documentation, I know when City Manager Lewis was here, he kept talking about drainage. This is just for drainage. We cannot use it for anything else, and we need to look. This is something that reading this documentation, if we have on this project of the small streets, areas where we have flooding or drainage issues, there's nothing that binds us to say, we're gonna do this one spot and this one spot only. Those are decisions that you have to make, which is, in communication. Where are these funds better spent? Do you want to fix Westwood and Brook Hollow? Do you want to look at the issues that you have on Tremont Trace and Champion Circle when you fix Tremont Trace? You have some flexibility here that was not apparent from my discussions with Mr. Lewis. So these are things that you need to look at. But when it comes to what else is the council doing? I have not been very involved in these, but the council member Grumman, I have told him that since he has longer to go than I do, that he's going to be the liaison for any further grants. And at last council meeting, we voted for us to proceed with this is a community block grants, which are not as difficult to get as some of the other grants the federal government has offered. So, and in those community block grants, there is funding for those. You know that. Well, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You know that. There is funding for grants. So I think it's important for this staff to be, and for the chair and the vice chair, to be involved and knowledgeable of what's going on with those community block grants. Because I read, it was in the packet, all the documentation was in the packet of last council meeting, but yes, there's a lot of things you can do with those grants, but roads are in there. So let's say that we look at these small streets projects or other projects, and we don't have sufficient funds. I think that there's a need for you to integrate, and I'm talking to you, for you to integrate with our community block grant, to council member Robert, and I can facilitate that. It is important. I'm a very firm believer that to achieve progress, everybody needs to have the same level of knowledge. And I don't mean educated knowledge, I don't mean experience, I mean you have to know what's going on. You have to know what the right hand is doing, what the left hand is doing, what the head is doing. It was nothing more frustrating that multiple divisions operating individually, you're gonna crash. So for me right now, personally, and that's your decision, I think that integrating, working this panel integrating with a community blood grant, at a minimum, knowing what's going on and putting in, having input is critical. And I think that the other decisions that you have to make, and you're gonna hear about the report which got 20 minutes ago from Craig Freeze, which I don't want to change, or in other words, color your own opinions. I'm disappointed, but I will say it, I'm disappointed in the report. And, you know, so these are the things that you have ahead of you. So you may want to, but the money is there from the PDE and Texas Department of Emergency Management Project. The money is there. It is not a lot of money, but it may help to, when we get into the Cave Freeze report, you'll see there is not enough money to do what option one, but enough, if we were to consider some of the other needs in other areas of the city, those are areas where the drainage funds would be used. And maybe to supplement the $227,000, which I think it was something you mentioned last meeting. And I'm sorry that I missed, but I was one of those lucky people. Last time I was here, in the 18th, I was tested positive for COVID on the 19th. 2 vaccines, 2 boosters. I still got it. And then I got through it, and after, and then I tested positive again within 48 hours, 72 hours. So I was out for 20 days. And I'm sorry, I did listen to the rest, I did watch the meeting, and I have been talking to your chair. So that's my brief report, and basically, guys, I just say it's your ballgame. I'm just telling you where the walls are. It's your ballgame. Okay, that's my, okay, that's done.
Well, it is kind of it's kind of a web of fun, but, well, we'll talk about this report as it comes up. But you can be our guide to know where we can coordinate funds and where those range funds are strictly limited.
I'm probably the only one, I could use a flow chart showing me the funding source and where it's allowed to go.
I think that's a good thing, we can do, put that together.
So the 227, that has to be used by the 2024. That
No,
what I heard?
no, there's 2 different ones. The 227, and I brought the minutes from the city council meeting. They
That's those
voted
city,
to let us have
Okay, those are
227,000. But
are those city reserve funds?
out of city reserve funds. So those are allocated to do the small roads. And they are paying them for chip and seal, roads on the cul-de-sac, the flow traffic routes. That is in their current budget. We got it in under the wire, so. They're there, we got those for roads. What Aurora was just talking about is the, I think it's 224,000 out of 470,000.
Then, yeah,
How much is it?
Okay,
on the grant.
I believe the drainage funds, we have received 224,000.
So that's the TDM funds are 24?
TDM funds, these are the 3 things that you have. Okay, the TDM is the 425,000.
And that can only be used on drainage. We have that in the bank?
We have those in our account already. We have received half of it, and we're scheduled to receive the other half this year. We've received 227,500. They are in our reserves earning money. What I call GR is general revenue. That's our borrowing comes from us. So maybe it's a better thing, say, city funds, 22, 23, and this is coming from city taxes. And there we have 227. Okay. And then we have the bonds, which are, these are, I would say, we have the money. These are if the bonds succeed. And if the bonds are for 3.45. 3.1? Or 3.25, I believe. I mean, I'm not the good on it. So this is pure federal money. This is pure city money. This grant says you have 4 purposes. Forget the 3 purposes because we're not gonna do them. So we're going for purpose number 4, which is drainage, sewer, water, anything related. And here we have 227 fixed roads. So you can take some of this money and move it and use it here if it's drainage related. Right now, because I'm sorry, but we didn't have as good information as we should have in the, about this, and that's nobody's fault for ours at the city. Basically, we said, okay, we want to fix, the city manager has said, there are 3 areas that drainage we need to fix. And we said, we're gonna do 1. Now, when we do those, unfortunately, none of those areas are in the same geographical area as these. But you have issues with drainage on those side streets. You have. I can tell you that Wilson, Spalding, McGregor, flood. Tremont Trace, floods. John, when you look at John I'm sorry, I'm gonna call him John. I know he didn't come for this, but he was chair of the roads advisory work group. We know we have flooding in the McGregor, Spalding, and Wilson.
Yeah.
We know we have flooding on Tremont Trace.
Yeah,
And then when you look at the smallest
don't
streets.
forget Brookside. That's the worst area in the whole town.
Oh, Brookside, we didn't
We have
include
some on Westwood.
because
So,
that is definitely a drainage issue.
Oh,
okay,
And we knew that.
you're
that-
looking at $1 million plus to go in and
Yes,
fix the drainage and put a road in.
so.
Easy.
We don't have that much
The
money.
opportunity, but the reason I'm saying this here is the opportunity is, you have the Cape Breeze coming up and saying, you don't have enough money to do these streets. But if you have, and this is something that you have to work, particularly Tremont Trace, I'm gonna speak about, Tremont Trace, any work that you do on Tremont Trace has to address the culvert and has to address when it rains, that culvert becomes fountain. It is like the water bubbles up
The
this.
problem is, where are you gonna take the water?
So you can say, we want, and we can work with TDM and say, we are going to use this money, and you present it, we are going to address the drainage issues, specifically whatever areas, and we can do that. And as we move to do this, we want to address drainage issues in that location. I am saying this from reading the documentation. I believe that is possible. However, I would feel a lot more comfortable if we had that communication with the administrator of the award, and he told us, okay. But,
Well,
so,
any talking you get done, Aurora, get them to explain where they're gonna put the water.
and we have a lot of documentation. So I think that we need to do, but this is where the money is now. The bonds, we don't know what's gonna happen there. So for speaking to your workload, you have 3 projects that have been given to this panel to do. And the bonds, if you get the election in November and they pass, the earliest you can get funding is January?
Yes.
In January, so you have some time
Maybe.
to get into the bonds. There's, there's already discussions, what are you gonna do if you get the bonds? Which streets are you gonna do? And I can tell you that the pavement assessment study that was done by Faith Priest, where they show some sums of money, where they show some estimates for repair, seriously underestimated. For them to think that they can do the Champion Circle can be redone for 100,000 plus.
Just is the
Okay,
TPE,
stop.
the TPEM,
No,
do
seriously.
we have any timeframes that we have to worry about? Somebody was saying something about end of 24. What do we have, what money do we have to use by the end of 24?
For the TDM funds,
TPEM funds, so that has to be done and allocated by the.
they have to be allocated by
Too far.
and then finish. But still, it is time to get going.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is when we hit big drainage projects like Brookside, there's a lot of engineering that goes into that. And it takes a very long time. And not only are you engineering the drainage, the project itself is gonna take much longer to get in there and finish. And at 24, Brookside, that'd be very tight to do all that.
Yeah.
I think Wilson Circle, that area, to be able to either raise the street or do something to where you're fixing the drainage and covering more of the streets and getting the streets repaired as well as fixing the drainage. I think that would be a better use of funds than just tackling one big drainage project and not being able to get the streets done. So I'm thinking seeing more where we can hit more of a larger area where the drainage is or impacting more like Westwood. There's a ton of people that go across Westwood into that neighborhood.
And I'm gonna be very honest with you, and I shouldn't say this because I live on Wilson Circle, and I know my neighborhood. And even though the street was rated very low and the condition, the people in that neighborhood are okay. Because we have very little traffic. It's become a popular area for walkers. I see a lot of, some young couples with children, and they bring their children on their little bikes because it's safe. Nobody's gonna be running their children over like they do on Woodbury Drive. But so it's a neighborhood where we're okay. We're okay. You come in the morning and my neighbor Nelson is going out of the street and I'm coming in, we get away from each other and we pass and we're fine.
Right.
So it's not a critical area.
Sure.
And he seems to have, I don't understand, you can talk, I don't understand this.
It's not necessarily the most critical, it's about who's been put out the longest, I think, was the thing.
And that's
It's
what-
24 some years for Wilson Circle in that area for them to have any
Yeah.
construction done in the neighborhood.
And
Do you have
the
this?
roads
But if
are-
we look at, even if we
Yeah,
just
I
look
got
at Westwood, you're going to look at that drainage area and be like, okay, we're gonna fix the drainage in this little area here, but there's not a broader section of road to be fixed. So you're really just focusing on the drainage in a few of these spots, whereas if you have broader drainage issues in like Wilson Circle, where the whole area is more getting inundated.
Yeah.
We can fix that drainage problem and fix the roads at the same time with that amount of money. In Brookside, you're not even close with that amount of money at all. And Westwood, you could fix the drainage problem, but what are we doing with the rest of the roads? Are we just gonna address the Westwood and then do like Canyon Creek with the paving? It's nice when you can get in and do the work in one area and complete it.
But we had talked about Westwood and Brook Hollow
Mhm.
as one of the primary problems.
Yes,
And that was for the drainage. We're gonna concentrate on that, get the bids, then go to the other ones, and I think that Cody, that was your suggestion, before we look at, Jack Miller and Doolittle.
My idea there, and I don't expect everyone to agree with me, the Brookside, the street that is supposed to be paved, which isn't paved, that portion of that street is destroyed. The rest of the street has been converted to concrete. So, and there's, I think I described all the problems I saw, that multiple staff problems there. However, even if we have a rather large flood, that's not going to get substantially worse because it's all been made out of hard concrete. The Westwood thing, that problem over there, I haven't talked to any of the residents that live right there. That's a serious drainage problem.
Yeah.
And it's not directed to streets, but it goes on and on. It cuts through 3 blocks. If you go all the way back up to the, and it's degenerating too. Like, there's big portions of it, they're just falling apart and washing away. I think Westwood is arguably the worst drainage problem I've seen in town.
yeah. I mean, lucky for us, the house right in front of where that drainage problem is for sale right now. Just put it out there. Yeah, the yellow one right off of, what is it, Brook Hollow? That one is for sale, so it may be something to look at, buying that and
Is that right?
incorporating that into drainage.
Yeah, it was owned by, it was purchased by Matt, the guy from Somerset, and he had it as a rental. So now they're selling it again.
Yeah, well, no, that wasn't, I don't think it's 11, I think it's not.
What was the other one?
Or what, yeah, one of them, but they're moving up to remote Wisconsin or something.
Right.
So the point I was making, differentiating between those 2 drainage issues is, if we redid the street there, on Brookside, I believe it's gonna be mostly out of the large portion of the floodplain, it's kind of the highest portion of the street, and they would have a nice fixed portion of asphalt street, and it could wait a few years without changing anybody's quality of life, really, because it's been converted to concrete. But the Westwood thing, that is, it's like having a dump in the middle of our town.
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
And as Roy was pointing out, we need to make a decision, and I thought we had talked about focusing on the Westwood Brook Hollow flooding issue and get, engineering firm to start the review. And I believe we decided that we don't have to do an RFP for an engineering firm. We can, because that was in a previous.
We have to do an RFP, but we don't have to pay anyone to do the RFP. Cape Breeze can do it. Cape Breeze can do it because we thought that we can have the city engineer assist us in putting an RFP. It's not, this award is not like some of the other federal grants. If you notice, we're going out to get an administrator, and those people do work on contingency fee. They come in and help you manage the grant only but once you get the grant, they're taking money from the grant percentage. We don't have to do this here. There's no requirement for us to hire an administrator for this type of award. It's something that can be done with our current resources.
But it doesn't sound like we're combining any of our funds. We're gonna use TDEM funds for drainage on Westwood, and then you wanna use the 227 First Street somewhere.
We can do that. So, yes.
We're considering all of that settled business?
Do that again?
We're considering that settled business?
I believe so, because in what part do you disagree?
I have about the same opinion on this report as Aurora does. $20,000 to mobilize to pave streets, that's not gonna buy the diesel. That doesn't have any markup on it. I think it's more like 60,000 to mobilize streets.
You think so?
But
Well, if I spend one day putting a crane up, I was telling Ted about this earlier, I wanna set up a big crawler crane on a job site, the mobilization fee is 45,000, that's one day. I mean, I think 20,000 is, a bit on the low side. I don't know.
well, I have a comment on that, because I did work with Chip Seal Pavement Company. The guys that I've talked to and what's on the internet, they don't have to charge as much for mobilization. They have smaller equipment. They'll come and they'll do a driveway here and a street there. They have a smaller operation they can do, or smaller streets. Like I don't see how those big trucks could get into Wildwood. And therefore, one guy said at $1.50 square yard, that included mobilization. So,
$1.50 a square foot for paving with mobilization?
yes. And so whether we've had this reviewed, I don't agree with some of the logic, but I can see where he was going. We looked, he was thinking about mobilization, and that's why he checked, he lumped these things together. He eliminated Overbrook, Tremont Trace, Westwood Circle, and Country Lane, because they're not close to anything. But my point with him was, Brook Hollow cut them off. They'll never be close to anything. It's like, Brook Meadow could include Shady Grove when they're paving that. But Wildwood, you're gonna have to jump across Brook Hollow, down, so, why not consider getting a bid? And if the bid is way out of our price range, well, it's plan B, but let's see. I don't think K-Freeze has dealt with many chip seal, construct companies. And, they're used to much bigger cities. I think we should move forward in getting some bids for, even just use these limited streets.
Let me clarify, move forward, one thing that I'm confused, and I just want to clarify for the record. Move forward, get the city engineer involved on the drainage.
Actually, for the
So move forward on the
small streets.
and you're satisfied? And with what he's presenting, 3 options, which option,
Option 3, he's saying,
option 3,
if we don't do Canyon Creek, which I don't think should be chip seal, I think that should be overlay. They probably get 1,000 trips a day. But and then he says on option 2, if there's sufficient money, you can add additional streets.
well, why isn't, I have a question, and you talk to him.
Okay,
If you, he doesn't say that. He does say address, provide some flexibility to complete additional areas. Okay. Option 2 is well below the 227,000 approved.
right.
So you have about 60,000 or so left, right? By that area, for a bar. Okay, and you do not do Canyon Creek Drive, correct, which is fine. So why, if he's suggesting option 2, why is he not including?
Option 3, here's what he's saying is,
Yeah.
okay, option 3, no Canyon Creek plus bid alternative, and he's put 37,000 in there for bid alternative. Lump sum as alternate streets.
Yeah, drawing a line to Canyon Creek, that was the fastest way to get us under budget.
Well, but I think the only reason he included Canyon Creek was he was still thinking big construction, and it's gonna be mobilization, keeping them all in the same place.
Hasn't been repaid in 14 years. Yeah. But here's my issue with that, is you still have Wilson Circle, McGregor, you have that area that does have flooding, that has some drainage issues. I'm not gonna spend money to redo a street that still has drainage.
I wouldn't do Wilson Circle without bringing in drainage.
Okay, so that is all in option 1, 2, and 3.
So we can move those out.
But like,
So if you move those out, you could do Canyon Creek Drive, that whole neighborhood. You could chip seal that whole thing, if you took out Wilson Circle, and you could get that done in under budget.
Okay, but there are still 4 streets that are not in this.
Sure.
That I think, and I don't believe Canyon Creek should necessarily be chip seal. These other streets maybe have 3 houses, maybe they get under 100 trips a day. I think it's overbuilding if we pay them in the same specification as Wood Creek. They don't need that level. It's just like building a house, you don't need that much power on those streets. But maybe Canyon Creek does. So I'm just saying do the cul-de-sacs. What we're missing and haven't been done for years are, we have 18 cul-de-sacs, 4 of them have been paved, but 12, this is 2 more, anyway, 12 cul-de-sacs haven't been paved in years and years and years. Because it's not convenient to do that. You know, you're doing a big street and then you've got to tail off. That's why I think the smaller companies that do chip seal will be the ones to bid this. And I think, and that's why also, I don't know if you saw my original one where I had 3 sections. It seemed like it got too complicated. But one of the construction guys said, if he had 100,000 square feet, he could drop his price down appreciably, down to 5. But that's why he wasn't talking about doing big streets. He was okay with doing small streets. He'll drive to Wood Creek to do the driveway.
We have the action here is to discuss and to make a recommendation to council. I'm gonna ask, do you feel that this report is at the point where you can go to council with a recommendation, or do you feel that there needs to be more discussion with Cambridge? More discussion.
Yeah.
That's my question.
Well, we just received it about 10 minutes before the meeting. That's not very much time to review any.
Yeah. I don't think so.
That's ridiculous.
I'm concerned, you know, I think that,
Ask for the report for days.
I don't
We
think
didn't
this
have
is,
it.
I'm not blaming you, but
so it's the decision. So what do you think at this point?
Really, the test of this report right here is what Linnea is saying, put this on the street and get a GMP bid on it.
But first, let's go over it with K-Freeze. And, well, what are we gonna accomplish with that?
No.
You know,
We already know what we're gonna do, we really just need to pick the streets and see if it's gonna come under budget. This town right now, Wilson Circle and that area needs to go away, and that's because we have drainage issues. Canyon Creek Drive, sounds like it needs more overlay, wait for bonds on that one, we'll keep all the sense.
So,
Um,
okay, and add.
So if we add Country Lane, we have Wildwood Circle, we have Overbrook Court, I don't know about.
Can we keep Wilson Circle in there as an add alternate bid?
No, we still has drainage problems.
We have drainage problems. We also have funds. If we know how much the street costs, then when we put the drainage funds next to the street bid or bids that we already got, we'll know the total cost of repair is.
Right,
We can keep that number in our back pocket as an add alternate.
exactly.
So, sorry, what were the streets you said? Country
So
Lane?
Country Lane, Wildwood Circle, Overbrook Court, what is it called, Tremont Trail? Or Trace. We throw everything in except for the Wilson Circle neighborhood and take out Canyon Creek Drive. And we'll use those as alternates with Wilson Circle and Canyon Creek Drive, we need alternates for that.
And there's also a country court, which is a small little cul-de-sac in there.
Oh, the one up by Country Lane, yeah, we'll throw that.
Yeah,
We'll throw that in there for signature.
So,
I'll make a suggestion in there, maybe I'm gonna be right. If we are gonna go with smaller operators that might have more reasonable mobilization costs that's focused on chip seal, the bids should probably be GMP bids, which is guaranteed maximum pricing.
Okay,
They don't need to come back.
It's project only, not
They pave our streets, then I'll get to come back for more money. Unless the city initiates a change order.
No change orders.
Okay.
So that'll show a lot of progress on our end, definitely, but I think until we get the bond and some more drainage money, we can tackle some of the bigger problems.
Does someone need to return our phone call before we in good faith and put it out on the street with these guys? We've got the money to pay for it. We get a lot more aggressive when they know you really have the money and it's not something that we're just a phone call away. The guy hadn't called us back in 6 months.
And of course, they don't need to have any idea how much money we have. If they want to find that out, I guess they can combine the public records. But certainly we shouldn't volunteer that.
He's got two jars.
So you have, that's a motion?
Yes.
That's your motion? And you, yeah.
So your motion is to select option 3, but then remove Country Lane, Overlook, Wildwood Circle, Tremont Trace, Country Court, keep those as what they refer to as the alternates.
How many streets are we removing?
We're removing 3, actually, well, 4 with Canyon Creek out. So option 3 took Canyon Creek Drive out already. So we're doing option 3, but we're taking out Wilson Circle, McGregor Circle, and Spalding Circle, and we're adding
They
in,
push from the regular and Spalding out.
yeah, and we're adding in over Brookport, Country Lane, Country Circle, Wildwood Circle.
Tremont Trace.
Tremont Trace.
So what's our net gain in the streets?
Our net gain is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 net gain. So
Yeah.
5, adding 5, taking away 3.
Do we have measurements on it?
We'd have to talk to Katie Priest about maybe, well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's just gonna be an estimate we need to put out here.
If you're paving it, your paving contractor, you do
Yeah,
that.
right, that's what we need to do, so we need to put an RFP on or a GMP, or
Okay.
whatever it's gonna be.
You got,
No, it's a request for pricing, but we want the bid to come in as a GMP proposal.
Right.
Okay, so.
Do we
So the motion is going to be to recommend putting out an RFP to get option 3 plus those 5 streets minus the 3 streets of Wilson, McGregor, and Spalding to get a price.
And
And Canyon Creek
Canyon Creek, okay.
is off.
It's, okay. All right, so that's your motion.
and you're leaving Canyon Creek in?
We're taking it up.
Okay. And then, did you want to put it as part of your motion to ask for the guaranteed?
Yes,
price?
yeah.
Okay.
And will increase be doing this RFP?
It's my understanding, it's what Aurora told us, that
Right,
Yeah,
they've already been enjoined for that service.
all
Is
right,
that true, Aurora? K-Breeze will produce the RFP for us?
are we gonna request Cape Breeze to put out the RFP with the?
I think that is, I think you selected the option, case freezing, to do this, and then to bring it to council, and then they can work out, they did the RFP for Blue Creek Drive.
Okay. Okay. So we'll vote on the motion.
I'll
I think
second
all
it.
of that is good.
Okay.
I seconded the motion.
Okay,
Okay, I think that's, I agree, you know, I can tell you, no point. They did some repairs to Wilson Circle, we had the heavy rains, everything is gone. There's no point going in there if you can't fix it.
okay, so let's go ahead and vote then. Panelist Joe Green. Chairperson Renee Bailey.
Yes.
Vice Chair Cody Ebney.
Yes.
Panelist Jill Bloom.
Yes.
Panelist Ed Fleming.
Yes.
So then, number 7, that's part so that takes care of 5, 6, 4. What is the bottom?
Yeah, that did 4, 5,
Yeah,
and 6.
and the only thing that is,
Oh, number 7, we don't need, because
We just did that.
is a mistake of 6. 6 and 5 are the same,
Mhm.
because it's not a grant, it's a budget item. And then what you mean for 7?
okay,
And so 7 takes care, so you took care of 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
Why?
Okay.
Why?
got a question. Does anybody know how Cape Breeze is gonna put this RFP on the street?
No.
Well, it's, has to be published in the newspaper, et cetera.
Oh, yeah, yeah. that's- Usually published for a month. I think it's only 7 days by state law, but, yeah, and I would suggest that they do several small cities. Advertising is not that much, but that's where you're gonna find these contracts. Black Dog.
If the city was pleased with what Alpha did on the Creek Drive, I would make sure that Alpha has an RFP for them also.
They were outstanding.
They have worked for me before in Austin, and everything they do is absolutely outstanding. Or I can tell.
Alpha paving.
Alpha paving, they were outstanding.
I work with
I
them every
couldn't
week.
believe I was.
I know.
Their office is right by my office, they're pretty awesome.
The next meeting is October 12th, you won't have that for October 12th, but I can ask, then it would be November, and usually the mayor will ask if we need to have, what's the second? Will be the 10th, November 10th will be the meeting. But if you want to get this moving, we usually sometimes have a meeting in between, and we can talk about that. But,
Okay, meeting of this kind.
well, the meeting of this time, and the next meeting will be in a month.
Yeah.
Unless you want to move faster, and you want.
Well, we're going to depend on the council, so I think a month is still
Okay,
workable.
it's up to you.
I mean, do we need to approve Cape Breeze putting out the RFP again, or are they just going to do that? If the council accepts it.
I think he needs to come back to you, you need to give him less time, you need to tell him, he needs to come back with the changes, with report with the changes that you have requested for this panel to review. And then if you're satisfied with that, then they can move to the other.
Can I ask a question as a procedure? Yes, I know the answer, but do we have to meet in a panel again if we're only considering the changes that Cape Breeze sends? Is there any more efficient way?
Because of the way they established the ordinance for this panel, any meetings that you hold where you take a vote to make a decision, they have to be published. Am I right, City Secretary?
Yes, ma'am.
And so, and then,
So
Okay, so we might have to have an interim meeting, but
I,
we can make it.
yeah, so you have,
Yeah.
that's,
yeah, we definitely have.
Yeah.
You know, if I really had to, if it was that difficult, we could probably spend a little bit of effort so that people could join remotely if they had to. It's only gonna be a 15 or 20 minute meeting. We'd probably work that out.
I'll be here.
Yeah, okay.
Do you want to check your calendars today or?
We're gonna be on Cape Breeze's timeline though.
yeah, so you can, and that gives you time if you meet in a month.
Okay, so I'll need to check. All right, let's recap. I need to check with Cape Breeze before we set our next. Oh, yeah, because they need to get it back. Within a week, if we're gonna schedule one for 2 weeks.
I don't think it should take more than a couple weeks.
If I'm right, the next meeting, if you don't schedule a meeting in between, will be October 20th. Am I right? That's Thursday. So you have, so you have less than 30 days to get all this done.
Okay.
All right.
You know, and we can.
That's fine. I wish city council meetings would be nice.
I think as soon as we get 3 bids in front of us,
Ready.
that's gonna show us the path forward.
And there's nothing that stops you when you talk with Cape Breeze and you tell him the changes, that he comes back with the report and the report includes some suggestions on procurement.
Okay.
There's nothing that stops you from that. And you can be, that gets you ahead of the game.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we've concluded our business.
But just to make this formal, I'm rereading the notes. Just kind of to go back to number 7, where it says discuss and take appropriate action on recommending the city council of Cape Breeze and Associates formulate a request for proposal for a grant. We didn't actually include that in that motion that we did when we combined.
Or 7.
Yeah, so what you think?
Seven is part of, the way that was in the way that Maureen put that is wrong, because the 227 is not a grant.
I know.
So basically, seven,
Goes
if this is taken care of, everything.
Okay. I just want to get
Yeah, it's
clarification.
a motion to,
I make a motion to adjourn.
yeah, everybody.
Good job.
Good work.
I got it.
We're under now.
You ready for this? Yeah, we're-
Meeting effort.
He said
I know. It's a long day.
That's good.
That's time. Really go to bed. We stop recording.
GMP price? Price?
Not being a deaf changer.
Yeah, that would be something right there.
Yeah.
About, I don't leave my little.
This is pressure getting on.